Hey, what's up everybody? It's Julius, DeBerry at Majestic Studios. Got a quick video, something I want to sit and talk to you guys about just for a few minutes. Over the last week and a half, one of the questions that I think I've seen or got asked the most concerning the Yamaha Montage M8X is this keyboard a good keyboard for church? I want to answer that question with a big yes. Absolutely. The Montage M8X is an outstanding keyboard for church. And I'm going to give you some reasons why I think it's outstanding. But on the flip side of that, I'm going to be honest with you and I'm going to give you some reasons why it might not be best for you, or why it might not be the best fit, or just some things for you to consider. I'm in no way trying to discourage you from buying the keyboard. I'm also not in any way trying to encourage you to buy the keyboard. I'm just giving you some honest viewpoints from me, an experienced keyboard player, keyboard tech, and I understand the technology, and I also work in ministry and have for many years. So I want to help you guys make the best decision. Okay, so the most obvious thing is going to be the sounds. This keyboard sounds amazing. There are so many usable sounds in this keyboard. And when I say usable sounds, I mean usable across a lot of different categories. Now, with that said, you got to really think about how many sounds are you going to use in church. Of course, you're going to have your piano, and that's something that Yamaha has been known for years, all the way back, maybe before the Power Grand. But everybody knows about the Power Grand that was made famous as a part of the Yamaha Motif Classic. And even to this day, people still rant and rave about that piano and how it cuts through the mix. But here we are, 20 years or so later, and Yamaha has still managed to be giving phenomenal pianos in their workstations. And that has not changed even here. So you're going to have those great pianos. You're going to need your strings. You're going to need your pads. You're going to need your synth brasses, your synthesizer sounds. All of that stuff is right here at your fingertips in this keyboard. But you got to really ask yourself, how many of those sounds, even if I, layered everything that I possibly could layer to take advantage of these 400 voices of polyphony, how many of these sounds are you going to use? That's a question you have to ask yourself. But as far as the sounds and the ability sonically of this keyboard to help you in worship and to help you in ministry, this keyboard can do the job hands down. Another reason why I think this keyboard would be a great keyboard for you as far as church and ministry is concerned is the control surface. Having all of these faders and buttons and things that you can use to manipulate your sound live on the fly. This, like I said in the other video, this is probably one of the most outstanding control surfaces that I've seen from any keyboard ever. Considering the faders, considering the buttons, considering the knobs, considering the pitch bend, considering the modulation wheel, considering the ribbon controller, considering the portamento knob. There's a lot of things that you can use to manipulate and modulate your sounds right here from this keyboard. And that is something that we really need to have as far as a live musician in a church service is concerned. We need to be able to filter sounds in and out and change various aspects of our sounds on the fly to be able to adapt to what is going on in the church service and catch the moment at a moment's notice, just like that. So I think that this keyboard allows you to switch sounds on the fly. It allows you to change sounds on the fly. They have the live set mode in this keyboard where you can touch your sounds right there on the screen. You can see everything right in front of you. And if you don't want to leave that screen, you don't have to. And for that reason, I think that control surface, I think they really thought through it quite a bit. And I think that they have put something here that will help you a lot more than hinder you as far as a worship musician and a church service is concerned. And considering faders, one thing that we have to remember, and when we start talking about faders and considering faders, one thing that we have to remember and think about is I'm going to be layering sounds. And in order to layer sounds, you're going to need a lot of voices. And voices basically come to polyphony. And you're going to need a lot of voices of polyphony in order to be able to layer sounds the way guys are wanting to layer sounds today. For the longest, back with the Motif ES, the Motif Classic, the XS, and even the XF, people were like, I want to be able to layer more than 4 sounds. And I'm just like, once you start getting more than that, and even at 4 sounds and sometimes less, you can run into polyphony issues. But people, for some reason, they just wanted to be able to put more and more sounds in their layers. And it's understandable. But now you have the ability to do that. Not just from this keyboard, but even the Montage before, you had the ability to layer more than 4 sounds. But this keyboard has the polyphony to back it up, especially if you decide to use user samples, which is the next thing I'm going to segue into. With almost 10 gigabytes of user sample RAM available in this keyboard, there is nothing that you shouldn't be able to load in here and have every sound imaginable that's already not in the keyboard available at your fingertips. So considering that, if you're going to use user samples, that's a whole nother 128 voices of polyphony that you're gaining. That's included in the 400 that we're already quoting. But using those 128 voices from the user samples, that allows you to have a complete sound within your keyboard. There's plenty of polyphony. There is plenty of polyphony built into this keyboard. If you consider the engines that are available, the Rompler engine that uses user samples, the ANX engine, and the FM engine, if you consider all of that when you're building your sounds and not just putting all your sounds in from one engine, if you consider that, hey, I need to use sounds from this engine to kind of help take full advantage of the polyphony, then you probably won't have to worry about running out. And I think that is an essential part of having a keyboard to utilize in our church services and in our worship services. All right, so you've heard the good things that I consider as far as this keyboard is concerned, with it being a great option as it relates to being useful in a church or house of worship. And so considering that, I have to give you guys the negative side too. I thought pretty hard about this, and I wanted to be honest and as subjective as possible. So with that said, I really only came up with 2 really strong reasons why a keyboard like the Yamaha Montage M8X or the M series period would not be a great option for your ministry. And the first one is that it might be too complex. Now just wait a second and let me explain what I mean. Alright, so a few weeks ago I watched a video of someone on YouTube talking about another specific keyboard. They talked about doing training sessions on the keyboard at their church. Now I think they had volunteers that were coming in. They had several different people that were responsible for playing keys at the church, and because of that, they had to make sure that the people were fluent on the keyboard and able to use it. So they had to have training sessions to teach people how to use it. And I think that's a really great idea. I think something like that is really cool. If a church invests money in a keyboard, bringing in someone or even someone within the church staff that has knowledge of the keyboard to sit down with the volunteers or even the paid staff and teach them how to use the keyboard. I really think that's a great thing that church offers. But with that said, it was something that I had never heard of. And so because of that, it made me really think, like, who would number one want to invest time in training on a keyboard in a ministry? And that's, as awkward as that seems, it's probably true that most people have not had formal training using the keyboard or the tools that they're using as far as instruments at their churches on how to use the instruments specifically. And I'm saying this very loosely, but when you think about that, if people aren't having training or proper training on the keyboard, then they probably aren't getting the most out of the keyboard. Training could even come from YouTube University, maybe not having someone come in to train them, but having someone that says, okay, this is the keyboard I'm going to be using. And so they go and they dig themselves and they try to find different things and gain knowledge about the keyboard. In a lot of cases, that's probably not happening. Having a keyboard that makes it easy for someone to sit down and to begin to get comfortable enough to use it. I've heard piano players say, when I'm getting on the keyboard, just give me a good piano sound. Give me a good piano and string sound. And that's all they need. And so with that said, if that's all that's really being used, do you need a $5,000 workstation brand new like this in order to accomplish that in church? And I love having access to great keyboards in church. It's something that you definitely have to consider. I don't know if, budget wise, if it's something that churches have written into the budget each year or every other year to be able to go out and buy a keyboard that costs $4,000 or $5,000. So that's something to consider, is the complexity of the instrument. There are a lot of nuances in this keyboard that I feel are not beginner level. Now, of course, yes, you can sit down at this piano, you can push category search, you can go to piano, you can go to electric piano, and you can just play basic sounds. If that's all you want to do, you can even begin to layer piano and strings, or EP and strings, or piano and pad. But when you have a keyboard that is this complex and this powerful and having this much that it can do, it seems like that's something that you will want to take advantage of. And if you don't take advantage of it, then you could downscale it significantly to get something that better suits your ability, your skill set as it relates to knowledge about synthesis and programming keyboards. Now, with that said, that brings about the second thing, that if I just had to find a negative or a reason why this may not be a good fit for your ministry, that would be cost. And the cost associated with this keyboard, it's equivalent to what it can do as far as how powerful the keyboard is. Now, what do I mean by that is that when with something this powerful, something that has as many features as this keyboard is concerned, there's going to be an associated cost. And so with that associated cost, number one, if you're going to go out and buy something that has this potential, you should be trying to figure out how to use that potential, or if that potential is beyond what you are willing to work at or able to do, as far as really digging in the board and pulling out what makes it cost that much, then it seems like it would make more sense to, like I said, downgrade it some. This is a great keyboard. It is also very expensive, and there are other options besides this that will give you just as much advantage in your ministry as it relates to sounds and great sounds that you can use. There are offerings from Korg, there are offerings from Roland, and even if we just went back one generation, the previous or the original Montage could be a great option. And with the new one coming out, now is as good a time as ever to reach out and buy them, because they're on third-party sites, like eBay and Reverb. People are trying to sell them because they want to upgrade to the new one. So now's a great time to jump out and buy one and maybe get a great deal. Now, again, I'm going to say, if you want to buy this keyboard, it's a great keyboard to buy. I think those are some things that should be considered, especially when it relates to a church or a ministry making a purchase or an investment like this. You have to think about, am I going to be able to get anywhere close to what the associated cost is out of the features? Am I going to be able to get my money's worth out of the potential for this keyboard based on the person that's going to be using it or the people that are going to be using it? Are we going to be using it in a way such that it makes sense for us to go out and spend the kind of money that it's going to cost? So I just think that that's something that you guys should consider. With that said, that's only two things that could really be, depending on how you feel, the cost and the complexity. Those are some things that are going to weigh different depending on the person and the ministry. Some ministries, the $5,000, the $4,000 isn't going to be that big of a factor, as well as the complexity isn't going to be that big of a factor, because they may have the money to use. They may have already budgeted for a new keyboard, or they could have already had someone in place that knows about synthesis, they know about keyboards, they don't mind digging, they have the time to dig, and they're going to try to reach the full potential out of the keyboard. And I know that, you know, some of this could also be utilized outside of the Montage, some of these reasons that I've given as far as the complexity and the cost. But today, this is what we're talking about as far as this keyboard is concerned, and it's just something that you got to think about. But we have had these few reasons that could be reasons why we wouldn't want to consider it. But then on the flip side, you know, we have the reasons why it will be great for ministry. It's got all of the sounds in the world that you could utilize. It's got a beautiful sound engine that you can get all kind of sound textures and sound palettes from to utilize to create various atmospheres within your ministry. It has a control surface to help you to be able to use it in that manner, to be able to control it and make it feel the way you want it to feel and make it play the way you want it to play. These are just a few ideas that I have and a few thoughts that I've considered. I want to know what you guys think. Are you considering getting this keyboard for your church or your ministry? Is it something that you guys have talked about or have considered? What keyboards are you using now in your ministry? How do you feel that upgrading to the Montage will help you? Or do you feel like what you guys are using now is plenty? If you had an option to buy a keyboard right now for your ministry today, what would you choose? Would you choose a Montage, or would you go and get the Phantom? Would you get a Kronos? Would you get a Nautilus? The Nord? Would you get a Nord? That's another one to consider. It's really high end as far as price is concerned, but you got to factor in, is it worth what the price tag puts on it for church? So let me know what you guys think. Leave comments down below. You know I'm gonna respond. I'm gonna interact with you guys. And please, if you like the videos, please push the like button. It helps the channel quite a bit. If you don't like the video, don't push dislike. Just leave a comment and let me know what could have been better or what you would have liked to see as far as improvement is concerned. And if we can fix that in the next video, we will. But I'd love to talk to you guys and see what you guys think about this keyboard and how it can help your ministry or not. Have a great day. It's Julius DeBerry with Majestic Studios. Don't forget, like, share, follow, subscribe, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks.